The Waldorf Astoria presidential suite on the 42nd floor had furniture that cost more than houses and windows that made Manhattan look like a model city built for people who lived in the clouds. And at 3:17 p.m. on a Wednesday in March 1961, Frank Sinatra sat in a wingback chair near those windows, while three men explained why he should do something he'd spent his entire career refusing to do. The room smelled like cigar smoke, and the kind of cologne men wore when they wanted you to know they could afford it. And the March light coming through the windows was thin and cold, and made everyone look older than they were. James Whitfield sat on the couch across from Sinatra, 71 years old, chairman of American Broadcasting Corporation, a man who'd started in radio during the Depression and built a network that reached 40 million homes. Next to him sat Martin Drucker, ABC's head of programming, 53 years old, glasses that kept sliding down his nose, a leather portfolio thick with contracts and market research. Standing by the bar was Leonard Marks, Sinatra's attorney, 49 years old, expensive suit, an expression that said he'd seen this meeting play out a dozen times and knew exactly how it would end. Whitfield had been talking for 23 minutes, explaining the proposal, the numbers, the opportunity. ABC wanted to produce a variety special, 90 minutes, prime time, sponsored by General Motors, broadcast live from Los Angeles. They wanted Sinatra to host. They wanted him to sing 8 songs, do comedy sketches, introduce guest stars. They were offering $350,000, the largest talent fee ABC had ever proposed. And they wanted one more thing. "Frank, here's where we need your cooperation," Whitfield said, setting down his coffee cup with the careful precision of someone who knew the next sentence mattered. "General Motors is putting up $2 million for this special. That's their entire advertising budget for the quarter. And they have one requirement. They want you to close the show by singing the General Motors jingle. 45-second, you standing next to a new Cadillac singing about American craftsmanship and innovation. Simple, patriotic, perfect." Sinatra looked at him. "You want me to sing a car commercial? We want you to integrate a sponsor message into the closing number. It's being written by the same team that writes your material. It'll be sophisticated, musical. You won't even notice it's advertising. If I'm singing it, I'll notice." Drucker jumped in, adjusting his glasses. "Frank, every variety show does sponsor integration now. Ed Sullivan does it. Perry Como does it. This is standard practice. The audience expects it. The audience expects me to sing, not to sell. Singing is selling, that's the business. Singing is singing. Selling is what happens afterward. There's a difference." Whitfield leaned forward. "Frank, let me put this in perspective. $350,000 for 90 minutes of work. He did the math in his head, that's almost $4,000 a minute. Name another job in America that pays $4,000 a minute. I can name one, the one where I don't sing about cars. Is this really a deal breaker for you? 45-second. It's not about the time, it's about what it means. What does it mean? It means I'm for sale. Anyone with enough money can buy 45 seconds of Frank Sinatra singing whatever they want. That's the message." Drucker pulled papers from his portfolio. "Frank, look at these numbers. 40 million viewers. 40 million people watching you perform. That's more exposure than you've had in 5 years. That's album sales, concert bookings, film offers. This one special could restart your entire career. My career doesn't need restarting. With all respect, Frank, your last 3 films underperformed. Your television ratings have been declining. Rock and roll is taking over the music market. You're not in the position you were 5 years ago. This special is an opportunity to remind America why you're Frank Sinatra. And I do that by singing about Cadillacs. You do that by reaching 40 million people. What you sing in the last 45 seconds is irrelevant compared to what you accomplish in the first 89 minutes." Sinatra stood up, walked to the window, looked down at Park Avenue. From 42 floors up, the city looked manageable, organized, like something you could understand if you just looked at it from the right angle. But Sinatra knew that was a lie. The city was chaos up close. Noise and desperation and people fighting for space. The distance just made it look pretty. "Leonard," Sinatra said, not turning around. "What do you think?" Mark spoke for the first time since the meeting started. "I think ABC is making a generous offer. I think the exposure would be valuable. I think $350,000 would solve some immediate financial concerns. That's not what I asked. I asked what you think. Mark set down his drink. I think if you sing that jingle, you'll regret it every time someone plays a recording of this special, which if it's successful will be frequently. But legally, you'd advise me to take it. Financially, yes. Legally, yes. Personally, no. Whitfield stood up. Frank, can I be frank with you? It's your hotel room. I've been in broadcasting for 43 years. I've seen trends come and go. Vaudeville died. Radio evolved. Television took over. And through all of it, one thing remained constant. Talent survives if it adapts. You're immensely talented. But talent without exposure is just a rumor. This special gives you exposure. The jingle is the price of that exposure, and it's a small price. It's not small to me. Why? Explain it to me. Help me understand why 45 seconds of singing words someone else wrote is fundamentally different from the other 89 minutes where you're also singing words someone else wrote. Sinatra turned from the window. Because for 89 minutes I'm singing songs that mean something. Songs about life, love, loss. Songs that tell the truth about what it means to be human. And then in the last 45 seconds I sing about why you should buy a Cadillac instead of a Buick. That's the difference. One is art, one is commerce, and I don't mix them. But you perform for money, that's commerce. I perform songs for money. The songs themselves aren't about money. They're about something real, something true. The minute I sing, buy this car, I'm admitting that nothing I sang before mattered. I'm saying it was all just entertainment, just filler between advertisements. Drucker tried again. Frank, the audience won't think that. They'll just enjoy the show. The audience might not think it consciously, but they'll feel it. They'll feel the shift. They'll feel me selling instead of singing. And once they feel that, they'll never trust me the same way again. You're giving the audience too much credit. I'm giving them exactly the credit they deserve. They're not stupid. They know the difference between real and fake, between art and advertising. And if I blur that line, I'm insulting them. Whitfield walked over to stand next to Sinatra at the window. Frank, I'm going to be very direct. ABC is making this offer because we believe you're worth $350,000. But we're also betting $2 million of General Motors money that you can deliver an audience. If you can't deliver what they need, which is a clean, integrated sponsor message, then we can't make the deal. It's that simple. So I'm asking you, can you give us what we need? No, even knowing what you're giving up. Even then. Even knowing that Sammy Davis or Dean Martin would do this in a heartbeat. They're not me. Is that ego talking? That's clarity talking. Sammy and Dean are entertainers, great ones, but they're comfortable mixing art and commerce. They can sing a jingle and not feel like they've compromised. I can't. It's not better or worse. It's just different. Whitfield looked at him for a long moment. Frank, I've negotiated with unions, sponsors, affiliates, stars, producers. I've seen every kind of negotiation tactic. The holdout, the ultimatum, the bluff. And I can't figure out which one you're using. I'm not using a tactic, I'm stating a position. Are you waiting for us to raise the offer? No. Are you hoping we'll drop the jingle requirement? I'm hoping you'll understand why I can't do it. But I'm not expecting you to change the deal. So you're actually saying no, definitively, final. Definitively, final. Drucker stood up, portfolio in hand. Mr. Sinatra, with all respect, you're making a terrible business decision. This special would change your trajectory. It would remind the industry and the public that you're still relevant, still vital, still Frank Sinatra, and you're throwing that away over 45 seconds. I'm not throwing it away, I'm protecting it. Protecting what? What my name means, what people think when they hear Frank Sinatra. Right now they think singer, artist, someone who means what he sings. If I do your jingle, they'll think spokesman, pitchman, someone who will sing anything for the right price. And once they think that, I never get it back. Whitfield picked up his briefcase. Frank, I respect your position. I don't understand it. I think you're wrong. I think you're costing yourself a significant opportunity. But I respect that you have principles, even expensive ones. Thank you. We'll find someone else. Perry Como maybe, or Vic Damon, someone who understands that television is a collaborative medium that requires certain accommodation. I hope it works out for you. One last question: if we came back hypothetically with a higher offer, say 500,000, would that change your answer? Sinatra looked at him. There's no number that changes my answer, because this isn't about money, it's about what I'm willing to sell. And I'm willing to sell my time, my voice, my performance, but I'm not willing to sell my credibility. Your credibility is costing you $350,000. Then it's worth $350,000. Whitfield nodded slowly. I hope you're right. He walked toward the door. Drucker followed. At the threshold, Whitfield turned back. Frank, one more thing. When you're 55 or 60, when the bookings slow down and the records stop selling, when you're playing smaller rooms for smaller money, will you still think this decision was right? Ask me when I'm 55. I hope I get the chance. They left. Leonard Marks walked over to Sinatra, stood beside him at the window. That was the largest offer you've had in 2 years. I know. You walked away without hesitating. I know that too. Want to tell me why? Sinatra thought about it. Because if I sing that jingle every time someone watches that special, on television, on tape, 50 years from now, they'll see me selling. And I don't want that to be what I'm remembered for. I'd rather be remembered for the times I said no than the times I said yes for money. That's a luxury most people can't afford. It's not a luxury, it's a choice. And everyone can make it, most people just don't. Because most people need the money. Everyone needs money, the question is what you're willing to do to get it, and what you're willing to refuse even when you need it. Marx finished his drink. ABC will find someone else. The special will happen without you. Good. And you'll watch it from home, knowing you could have had $350,000 and 40 million viewers. I'll watch it knowing I kept something I can't put a price on. What's that? My ability to look at myself in the mirror. The meeting ended at 4:03 p.m. Frank Sinatra left the Waldorf Astoria and walked into a cold March afternoon with no idea whether he just made the smartest decision of his career or the dumbest. ABC produced the variety special 6 months later with Perry Como as host. Como sang the General Motors jingle while standing next to a red Cadillac, smiling like he meant it. The special drew 32 million viewers, sold 500,000 cars, and was forgotten within 5 years. Frank Sinatra never did a sponsored variety special, never sang a jingle, never integrated advertising into his performances. And 40 years later, when people talked about artistic integrity in entertainment, they talked about him, not because he was talented. Lots of people were talented, but because he understood that what you refuse to do defines you as much as what you agree to do. James Whitfield retired from ABC in 1972, wrote a memoir about his 43 years in broadcasting. He dedicated one paragraph to the Sinatra meeting. I once offered Frank Sinatra $350,000 to host a variety special. He refused because we wanted him to sing a 45-second sponsor message. I thought he was being foolish and stubborn. I was wrong. He was being Frank Sinatra. And being Frank Sinatra meant more to him than any amount of money. I've negotiated with hundreds of performers. Only one ever said no to the biggest offer of his career over a principle. And that one performer is the only one people still talk about. Martin Drucker never forgot the Waldorf suite. He told the story to young executives for 20 years. Sinatra walked away from $350,000 over 45 seconds, and everyone thought he was crazy. But he knew something we didn't. He knew his brand, his identity, his meaning was worth more than any single paycheck. And he was right. Because 50 years later, people still know what Frank Sinatra stands for. Can you say that about Perry Como? Leonard Marks represented Sinatra for another 18 years, negotiated dozens of deals, made Sinatra millions of dollars. But the Waldorf meeting was the one he remembered most clearly. Frank said no to more money than most of my clients made in their entire careers. And he didn't flinch, didn't ask for my advice. Didn't need time to think about it, just said no. Because he knew who he was and what he wouldn't sell. That's not stubbornness. That's self-knowledge. And self-knowledge is the rarest commodity in Hollywood. The Waldorf Astoria presidential suite is still there. 42nd floor, same windows, same view of Manhattan. Different guests now, different deals, different amounts of money changing hands. But the essential transaction remains the same. Someone offering something, someone else deciding what it costs. Most people calculate cost in dollars, a few calculate it in dignity, and even fewer calculate it in legacy, in what people will say about you 50 years after you're gone. Frank Sinatra calculated in legacy. And legacy, it turned out, was worth more than $350,000. Would you have sung the 45-second? Would you have taken the money, told yourself it was just business, rationalized that everyone does sponsor integration and it doesn't mean anything? Or would you have stood at that window on the 42nd floor, knowing you were walking away from the biggest payday in years? Knowing 3 men thought you were insane? Knowing the smart move was to say yes, and the principled move might leave you broke?